Hi and welcome to the Running Channel. I'm Anna and today I'm going to help you stick to your running goals all year round with some tips on motivation. We're going to cover how to set the right goal and give you some tips and tricks to stick at it. First though, if you're new around here and you've just found the Running Channel, hi, welcome along, great to have you on board. Please hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you get notified when we upload new videos all about running, which we do every single week. So if you're wondering, well, how long do New Year's resolutions typically last? The answer for most of us is not very long. It depends which stats you look at, of course, but when it comes to setting exercise goals as New Year's resolutions, well, a high percentage of people tend to give up midway through January. So why are we so bad at sticking to our New Year's resolutions? Well, the problem isn't with the fact that it's a New Year's resolution in itself. It's just that we're really bad at setting goals. Once the initial flush of excitement in the new year has worn off, it comes down to the fact that we're just not very good at setting good goals. People will often say that they're going to lose weight, or they're going to eat healthily, spend less time on Facebook, run a marathon, or go to the gym 5 days a week, and countless other vague self-improvement goals. So while all these seem like pretty reasonable resolutions and things that you've no doubt set yourself in the past, they are pretty much doomed to fail from the very beginning. Why? Because they're not SMART goals, and that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time specific. Goals should hit all 5 of these criteria to give you the best chance of hitting them. Having a goal to work towards is pretty much the key thing for motivation. Whatever the goal is that you set yourself is entirely personal to you, and it depends on where you're at with your running. But perhaps you want to get a faster parkrun time. Perhaps you want to run a 5K without stopping at all. Maybe you want to try out a run streak, or you want to get a PB over any number of distance. That's just a few examples for you, and as I say, whatever it is that you choose is entirely down to you. But having that goal to stick to gives you purpose for your runs, makes you more motivated to want to go out and do them. New stats from Strava found that people who set a specific goal at the start of the year were far more likely to still be active by the end of 2019 than those who didn't. So when you're thinking about setting a goal, make sure it's really specific. So for example, why not say something like, I want to run 5K in under 30 minutes by a certain date. It's a good idea to have an A, B and C goal. So your A goal is the one that is a bit of a stretch goal. So it's going to take a lot of effort and dedication to achieve, and kind of relies on everything going right in your training as well. Your B goal is something that's still going to take a lot of effort, but allows for a little bit of leeway. So for example, life getting in the way. And the C goal is the last option that you would be happy with. Make your running goals achievable. Don't try and run a marathon in under 2 hours. Hate to break it to you, it's probably not going to happen. If you set a goal that is unattainable, it can have the opposite effect on your motivation and can be really demoralizing when you're not getting there. In fact, the best thing to do is to try and set smaller intermediate goals so that you've got checkpoints to work towards, because it can be really scary and daunting thinking about how you're going to get from where you are now to where you want to be without breaking it down and checking them off. People keep people active. So according to Strava's 2019 Year in Sport report, 1 in 3 activities that were done in the UK and Ireland involved doing it with at least one other person. Their stats also found that most people tend to head out between 6 AM and 8 AM on weekdays, while those who are running in groups start much earlier than that, closer to 5 AM, and those who ran with others tended to run further too. Staying accountable means that you're also more likely to turn up and do it. So if you make it like an appointment with your friend, you're less likely to skip it because you're being held accountable by the other person that you're running with, and you don't want to let them down, do you? 89% of Strava users said that running with somebody else or as part of a group or a community motivated them to want to go out and run more. So there are tons of running clubs, crews, communities that you can be a part of. Have a little look online, check out social media, and it might be that you find something that suits your ability. It might be that you end up being part of a virtual running group as well. But whatever it is, make sure you schedule your runs into a calendar so you physically protect that time you're going to run with them. Don't get me wrong, I love running, and it pains me to suggest that you should be doing anything but running, seeing as we are the running channel after all. But if you have a think about your relationship with running and how sometimes it might be a bit love-hate, if you dig down deep into why that is, chances are it could be down to boredom. So mixing things up can help keep it interesting and in turn help you stick to your goals. Think about adding some cross training into your schedule. And no, I don't just mean the cross trainer, otherwise known as the elliptical at the gym. If you want some inspiration on some great cross training for runners, be sure to check out our video on the running channel all about that. So why should we mix it up? Well, Strava's data showed that people who got a marathon PB in 2019 had increased the number of non-running activities by 13% on the previous year. And if you're adding extra activities into your week, that means that you're going to be active more during that week. In fact, those people who aimed to exercise 3 times or more per week tended to stay more consistent throughout the year than those who did 2. And unsurprisingly, those who did 3 or more activities a week uploaded more activities to Strava, but the stats showed that it was twice as many. Sometimes less thinking and more doing is the way to go. Don't just sit around and wait for the moment where you suddenly feel like you want to go for a run, because let's face it, that moment might not actually come. So don't overthink it. Stop giving yourself time and headspace to think about the alternatives or to come up with reasons why you shouldn't go for a run. Just go out and do it. So you might feel fired up and raring, ready to go at the start of the year, but a word of warning, take it steady. So many of us decide to commit to ludicrous goals that are completely out of reach, and then if they fail in the first week or so, get completely disheartened and then just never get round to completing them at all. There's no point in you going out and doing miles and miles and miles, then ending up getting injured and sidelined and having to come back and start from scratch. There's no point. But if your goal is for a race example, find a training plan and stick to it. If it says rest, make sure you rest. Also, try and increase your weekly mileage by no more than 10% following the 10% rule. Just be aware though, the 10% rule is very general and doesn't apply to all training, but use it to ask yourself some questions. Are you being too conservative in your mileage? Are you being too aggressive? Where are you at in your training cycle? So how much should you increase your mileage by? Well, if you are just starting out and you're new to running, then your main aim is probably to keep that consistency going. So maybe looking at running 2 to 3 times a week, around 1 to 4 miles should do it. And don't increase your mileage every single week either. Get it to a consistent point over 2 or 3 weeks and then look at upping it from there. Runners who have more experience may find that they have a mileage sweet spot. So this is the amount of miles that you can run in a week and feel comfortable. Pushing it to any more than that could end up with you feeling overly tired, being more injury prone, and perhaps running more poorly. So when you find that mileage sweet spot, perhaps 10% might be a bit too much of an ask to push it to. So increasing by a little bit less than that may be the one for you. Yes, we know comparison is the thief of joy, but being able to track your progress can be a really valuable and motivational tool. 48 million people are using Strava to log their runs, and there are other trackers out there as well. Some people even like to use a paper diary. I know I did when I was training for my first marathon and found it really useful to look back and really get a sense of achievement seeing that training log build up. Make sure you're doing it for the right reasons though. You know, we're not all out there competing for kudos, remember. This is purely for yourself. It can be a really good tool to use if perhaps you need to take some time off, if you're injured or sick or life happens, to be able to look back and see how far you've come towards your goal already. Most people who don't stick to their resolutions usually fail by February. They hit a couple of setbacks and then give up completely. Perhaps you didn't feel like running because you were tired, or because it was dark or cold out, or something unexpected came up at work that meant that you didn't have time to get out. Whatever it is, it's okay. Move on. Don't worry about life getting in the way. Just mark it down as a learning experience and keep going. It's super important to remember that it's okay to fail. We're only human. We're not doing this because we're going to represent our country or because we are going to be making money out of running. This is our hobby and these are our goals and these are all personal to us. Don't get into that downward spiral of feeling guilty that you missed a few runs here and there, because otherwise you might not get back out of it and then you'll totally lose motivation. Hopefully that's given you some tips and tricks to stay motivated this year towards your running goals. Do let us know in the comments below what your running goals are for this year. Maybe we've given you some tricks that you hadn't thought about. Let us know that as well. Or maybe you know something that we don't. Give us your motivational tips in the comments as well, and we will see you next time on the Running Channel.